Amazing moment, broke dad's last dollar on diapers reveals surprising CEO's incredible generosity. Jake stood outside the grocery store, the summer heat pressing in around him like a suffocating blanket. He fished around in his pocket, his heart sinking as he pulled out a single crumpled dollar bill. All that stood between his daughter Lucy and the reality of needing diapers. Just $1. The weight of his responsibility hammered at his chest. He could picture her big brown eyes, innocent and trusting, unaware of the burdens of adulthood. But he also felt the sharp sting of inadequacy. Every bill that piled up felt like a personal failing. The rent, the utilities, food wasn't he supposed to provide more than a roof over her head? The decision tightened around him as he approached the checkout. Buy the diapers or hold on to it for groceries? There would be no milk for him and no food for her, maybe a week without pizza delivery money, but he could usually survive on ramen before his next shift. A pivotal moment, rife with desperation. He could be an indulgent father, ensuring Lucy was well stocked in diapers, and then stretch their meals just a bit tighter until the next paycheck arrived. But was it really enough? Anxiety squirmed in his gut that he hesitated before the register, sweat trickling down his back. A small voice echoed inside him, pleading for the diapers for Lucy. With shaky hands, he reluctantly placed the dollar on the counter, anguish pooling in his stomach like a stone. At once, relief washed over him. She would have the diapers she needed, but it was quickly followed by shame. This was what it had come to. Tears prickled at the corners of his eyes. Squeezing water from a stone, transforming his pride into an expense that left him feeling hollow. Unbeknownst to Jake, just outside the store, Sarah, the CEO of a successful diaper company, strolled past. She noticed his downcast expression when he emerged, the crumpled dollar as a badge of a father's silent struggle. Her heart twisted in recognition. Despite her privileged lifestyle, her own childhood was colored by hardships. All around her, people lived in ways she had eagerly escaped from, but somehow, Jake's plight rattled her in a way nothing had before. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake shuffled away, his heart heavy, Sarah's decision crystallized. Motivated by the glimpse into reality he had unwittingly provided, she resolved to leverage her resources to bridge the gap between privilege and hardship. Her company's detachment had always been a mere statistic, but Jake's solitary struggle ignited a fire within her. Turning her back on indifference would become her new mantra. Days passed, and whispers in the community grew, word of the mystery benefactor spreading like wildfire. Each delivery of diapers ignited flickers of hope among families, including Jake, who diligently worked day and night, each shift a step deeper into exhaustion. Curious and hopeful, he sought to uncover who could possibly be behind the benevolence, just as Lucy began to thrive with every new supply. Ironically, the anonymity of generosity emboldened Jake. What possibilities could emerge if he found the identity behind the kindness? As news crews arrived to document the story and speculative conversations erupted, Jake wrestled internally, torn between gratitude for the support and the pain of exposing his vulnerability. Each passing day pushed him closer to the truth, elevating his desire to discover the donor. The clock ticked down, the anticipation simmering. He knew that who they found could change everything. Desperate for resolution, he could not shake the feeling that discovering this mystery might be the key to not just salvaging their lives, but helping other families too. Jake's heart raced with the looming question, who was the stranger willing to change his life? The stakes intensified, pushing forward, leaving nothing and no one the same. Days turned into a blur as Jake continued to juggle his shifts at work and his newfound responsibilities as a father, all under the weight of his growing curiosity about the donor's identity. The clutter of unfulfilled bills and half-eaten ramen lingered in the background, but today, something felt different. Reflected in Lucy's bright smile was a spark of resilience, igniting a flicker of determination within Jake. Despite the chaos, he realized he was learning to navigate the maze of challenges facing him. In moments of solitude, he could feel the storm of emotions whirling inside him. It wasn't simply a matter of survival anymore. Discovering the benefactor felt like an opportunity to change his narrative. Handling the diapers, he imagined how uncovering the mystery could empower him not just to accept help but to pass it on to change lives beyond his own. Confronted with this potential, he steeled himself to face the growing inner conflict, gratitude against a biting realizability of his helplessness. Jake started networking in the community, meeting with neighbors who had also benefited from the anonymous generosity. He fabricated casual conversations about local businesses and community events, but behind his small talk lay a burning curiosity. Each shared story cradled new bits of information that seemed, subtly, to point towards something profound. It was in one of these discussions, shrouded in laughter and empathy at a local diner, that he met Andrew, a fellow father equally perplexed about the identity of their benefactor. "Our lives are changed, and yet it feels so fragile, doesn't it?" Andrew remarked, tapping his fork on the edge of his plate. "Like we might wake up one day to find it was all a dream." His apprehension echoed Jake's own fears, and suddenly, the shared vulnerability became a bond. Jake took a deep breath. He felt compelled to share his own observations. "It's not just about diapers, though. It's about dignity, right? Maybe we need to stop waiting and start doing something ourselves." That's when an idea struck him with electric clarity. He introduced the concept of a community gathering, not a city event or organized spectacle, but a simple potluck for families benefiting from the donations. There they could share experiences, celebrate their progress, and brainstorm ways to support one another. As others aligned with his boldness, inklings of excitement began to surface that he spent days planning, distributing flyers, and rallying support. It required exhausting hours, but each little contribution fired up a sense of purpose. This venture would be both a way to seek answers and a potential lifeline for others. A chance for collective growth and resilience, something he now craved. However, the day of the potluck dawned with a palpable tension. Would anyone show up? Would they be met with disappointment? Jake gazed at the meager arrangements, one table with mismatched chairs and a few homemade dishes cluttering the surface. Self-doubt left him anchored in uncertainty. What had he gotten into? But when he saw Lucy giggling with other children, building bonds among those who shared their experiences, tiny sparks of hope ignited in him once more. Then, in the midst of conversations and laughter, a nervous figure entered the gathering. All eyes shifted toward the newcomer. She was a woman in her late 30s, clad in sharp business attire, strikingly out of place among the casual, worn atmosphere. Jake felt a strange gravitational pull. It was as if she understood deeper struggles. "Is this the right place?" she asked hesitantly, her voice thin yet resonant. Just as curiosity erupted among the crowd, Jake's heart raced in a cacophony of sudden realizations. A mixture of dread and anticipation washed over him as he edged closer, questioning himself about her real reason for being here. The remarkable connection he had envisioned now lay within reach, but at what cost? Would uncovering the truth about her bring redemption, or further unravel the already frayed edges of his revelation? The time had come to face not only the mystery behind the generosity but the very essence of who he was becoming in this new chapter of his life. Jake felt a surge of warmth mixed with anxiety as he stepped closer to the newcomer. She seemed out of place yet undeniably sincere, as if she carried the weight of expectations that hung thick in the air. With each passing moment, the gravity of the room pressed upon him. All eyes were now drawn to her, waiting for a direction. "What brings you here?" he found himself asking, his voice steadier than he felt. A flicker of surprise crossed her face before a small smile emerged. "I've come to understand this community a bit better. And, well, to see the faces behind the stories." Her gaze darted around the gathering, absorbing the life and vulnerability that permeated the space. Jake's stomach nodded, her words were heavy with implication. This woman was not just another charity worker, she was someone who might hold answers to all the unasked questions. As he stood there, he could feel the collective hope wrapped in uncertainty, and he wondered if this was a chance he had been waiting for. The first step towards reclaiming control over his narrative. As the evening unfolded, Jake found himself increasingly drawn to her. Her name was Evelyn, and as they spoke amidst the chatter, he learned she was the CEO of a local nonprofit organization focusing on family welfare. Stories flowed freely, and Jake felt a sense of kinship in their shared struggles as parents, despite their differing experiences. It struck him how her polished exterior didn't mask her genuine concern for the families around her. "I often ask myself," Evelyn said thoughtfully, "how we can make the help more direct, more personal. The system can feel cold from the inside, you know." Her words struck a chord deep within him. Was he ready to confront the complexities of charitable systems and the emotional undertones that often went unacknowledged? He realized that his urgency wasn't purely about his own circumstance, it extended toward understanding how generosity created cycles of dependency that were difficult to break. Jake contemplated his next words carefully. "I've been thinking about how we can empower ourselves instead of relying only on outside help. I believe there's a way to intersect our experiences and build something stronger." The idea rolled off his tongue with conviction, surprising even himself. Evelyn's eyes lit up as she engaged with his idea. "That's exactly the spirit we need. A community that doesn't just receive but also gives in ways that matter." As she spoke, Jake noticed how invigorated he felt, not just by the idea itself but by the possibility of collaboration. With their shared vision, they seamlessly moved from small talk to the business of life and purpose, lessening the distance between them with every exchange. In Evelyn, he found not only a potential ally but a mirror reflecting the aspirations he had buried under layers of stress. Yet, uncertainty gnawed at him. What if this could lead him deeper into the world of nonprofit complexities? He would have to assess what he was willing to sacrifice for understanding. As the gathering began to shift, people engaged in meaningful conversations, laughter echoing softly in the background. Jake felt a sense of accomplishment at having brought these families together, but Evelyn's presence offered something more profound, a potential guide through the tangled web he dared not yet traverse completely. As Jake prepared to suggest a follow-up meeting, he noticed Evelyn speaking quietly with another attendee. He couldn't help but feel a flicker of apprehension. Was there more to her connection to the donor than she had let on? Was he ready to confront what that might mean for him, for Lucy, for his ambitions? The stakes had risen, and with them a new tension unfurled. Would digging deeper into the mysteries surrounding the benefactor lead him to the truth he sought, or descend him into more questions than answers? Only one way to find out. Jake returned home with Evelyn's voice echoing in his mind. Her perspective on empowerment and her keen awareness of the system's shortcomings unsettled him. As he closed the door behind him, the familiar scent of the worn-out sofa hit him, a stark reminder of the turbulence that awaited. He could feel Lucy upstairs, her soft breath steady yet fragile. Thoughts of the past months gripped him, the bills, the late nights spent worrying, the humdrum of survival that drowned out hope. Could he actually shift from passive victimhood to active participant in his own story? He stared into the small living room, its clutter representing his attempts at controlling chaos. It became a metaphor for his life, disorganized yet full of potential. His mind raced with the implications of what he could achieve with Evelyn's insight and the possibility of a partnership. The last conversation they had shared sparked a fire within. Here was an opportunity not just to rise above his circumstances but to reshape them entirely. What if it was not just an escape, but a declaration of his worth? As he sat on the edge of the couch, immense pressure pushed down on him, forcing him to confront the reality that pursuing this path meant shaking the very foundation of what he had grown accustomed to. The thought of entering the nonprofit world, often riddled with bureaucracy and emotional labor, made him hesitate. Yet, at the same time, it lured him with the promise of progress. Was he truly ready to wrestle with the complexities of helping others, knowing it could consume him? Jake opened his laptop and began researching Evelyn's organization, its goals, strategies, and community outreach programs. The more he read, the more he yearned to be part of a movement that would challenge the status quo. He questioned what skills he possessed that could contribute. He had always seen himself as just a broke dad, but what if he harnessed his ability to connect with people, his empathy cultivated through struggle, engaging with this world meant he had to evaluate difficult questions. What if his involvement took him away from Lucy? What if he failed and it would haunt him even more deeply? Each inquiry felt like peeling back layers of a self he had long tried to bury. He knew how to navigate hardships, but could he lead? Determined, he drafted an email to Evelyn, suggesting a follow-up meeting to discuss their ideas in more depth. But his finger hovered over the send button. Doubt crept in. Did he have the capacity to influence real change, to make moral choices that went against the grain of passive acceptance? What if the system was too entrenched to be uprooted? Feeling a spark of urgency, he pressed send, releasing a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The decision was made, but a swell of trepidation rose within him. It felt like a leap into the unknown, both exhilarating and terrifying. What awaited him on the other side of that meeting? Would Evelyn's enthusiasm match his potential? Amidst the flourish of emotions, Jake knew he had taken critical steps, but navigating this uncharted territory would inevitably lead him through more emotional turmoil. Where would this journey take him? Ready or not, he was about to find out where ambition, empowerment, and vulnerability collided. Just then, his phone buzzed, signaling an email alert. Evelyn's name popped up on the screen, and he felt his heart race. Would this be a path to answers, or another tangled thread to unravel? One thing was certain, the stakes had never been higher. Jake's heart thudded in his chest as he opened the email. The bright screen contrasted sharply with the dim light of his living room, illuminating his face with anticipation and dread. Evelyn's words flowed quickly, her enthusiasm was palpable, and she suggested they meet the next day to discuss not just his potential contributions but also his vision. Each line inspired and terrified him, igniting the smoldering embers of hope that had long been extinguished by years of hardship. He couldn't help but wonder if he could match her passion. Did he have anything of value to offer beyond the scars of his own struggles? He often felt like a shell of a man, a father burdened by the weight of responsibilities, but her email sparked a flicker of ambition buried deep within. The next morning, he woke with a sense of purpose coloring the grayness of his routine. After ensuring Lucy was settled with her breakfast, he threw himself into preparations for his meeting with Evelyn. He sifted through his belongings, seeking inspiration among the detritus of his life, a collection of old notebooks, half-finished ideas, and scattered papers filled with aspirations that felt too distant. As he flipped through the pages, realization struck him. He had stories to tell, lessons learned from hardship that could resonate with others facing similar plights. With newfound clarity, Jake began jotting down his thoughts, the struggles of fathers like him, the facade of normalcy that masked financial ruin, and the resilience that came in tiny moments of love and sacrifice. These narratives, he believed, could be the foundation of something meaningful, a way to connect, to inspire, and to offer hope. He wasn't just another background figure, he held the potential to be a voice in the larger discourse about real issues. His mind buzzed with possibilities as he planned his presentation. It was far more than a resume, it was a poignant reflection of a life lived under unique pressures, an authentic portrayal of the struggles that too many concealed beneath smiles. Jake knew he needed to present not just facts but feelings. This narrative could serve as a catalyst for change, a way to reach out to fathers in similar situations, an opportunity to advocate for those who felt lost. As the hour of his meeting approached, anxiety clenched at his stomach. The familiar fear of inadequacy whispered doubts. Deep down, a part of him questioned his worthiness to even sit at the table with someone like Evelyn. What if he stumbled? What if his proposal was met with skepticism? Each thought felt like a weight dragging him back into the shadows of his self-doubt. But the thought of Lucy waiting for him, watching him take steps toward a more hopeful future, ignited a fierce determination within him. He couldn't let fear dictate his path any longer. This was about more than just him, it was about her, too. He stood a little taller, mustering courage as he reminded himself of the stories he carried and the connection he could forge. When he entered the cafe where they were to meet, the world outside felt dimmed, its noise a mere backdrop to the energy within him. He spotted Evelyn at a table, her gaze warm yet expectant. As he approached, he could see the shadows of doubt he carried begin to lift with each step. This was where he was meant to be. They exchanged pleasantries, but Jake felt the gravity of the moment. He was about to unveil parts of himself that had long been hidden. The conversation flowed as he shared his vision, watching as Evelyn's eyes sparkled with interest. Her enthusiasm was genuine, coaxing him deeper into the heart of his narrative, but just when Jake felt he could maintain this momentum, he sensed an unfamiliar vulnerability seep into his voice, something about the potential failures he had barely acknowledged. Would he be able to sustain this fire he ignited? As they discussed logistics, aspirations, and strategies, a silence hung in the air, thick with the weight of what was remaining unsaid. His mind raced with unanswered questions, knowing that the next steps could lead to consequences he hadn't fully grasped. Had he opened a door only to find a cliff on the other side? Jake knew he had crossed the threshold into a new reality, yet he couldn't shake the anxiety of what lay ahead. It was thrilling, but would it be worth it? The moment crystallized. He was standing between two worlds, waiting for an answer that felt like it might change everything. Would his leap of faith yield the life he envisioned, or would it further entangle him in the complexities of uncertainty? As Evelyn began to speak, Jake felt the weight of expectation settle around him, audibly aware of the choices he was about to make. The air crackled with potential, and he could sense that his journey was only just beginning. Evelyn leaned forward, the light catching the excitement in her eyes. "Jake, what do you think is the most crucial story you want to tell? What drives you?" Her question hung in the air, amplifying the weight pressing down on his shoulders. Jake's breath caught momentarily. No one had ever asked him to articulate his motivations so directly. It was a simple inquiry, yet it demanded a detailed response. He could feel the familiar whispers of self-doubt rising, but he fought against them. This was his moment to shine, to share not only his vision but his journey. "I want to highlight the untold stories of fathers like me, the ones who battle silently every day," Jake began, his voice steadier than he expected. "We often feel invisible, like shadows in our families' lives, yet our struggles carry immense power. It's that power I want to illuminate. I want to create content that resonates, uplifts, and encourages." As the words poured out, Jake felt an exhilarating shift within him, like the breaking of a dam. He was exposing parts of himself he often kept hidden, vulnerability mingled with a burgeoning confidence. He could see Evelyn nodding, her engagement fueling his resolve. "What do you envision for the platform?" she urged, her tone encouraging. "The platform could serve as a sanctuary," he continued, the ideas now cascading more freely. "Maybe a blog, possibly a podcast, where fathers feel safe to share their experiences. A place where we can swap strategies, celebrate wins, however small, and offer kinship in our challenges. We need to create a space where stories of resilience and struggle coalesce, where we aren't forced to wear masks." Jake leaned back slightly, surprised by the conviction in his voice. It felt like a distant memory of who he could be before doubt intertwined with the fabric of his life. Sensing his newfound enthusiasm, Evelyn interjected. "That's brilliant, Jake. With the right approach, not only can this resonate with others, but it could also spark real conversations about fatherhood, real change." Yet, amidst this rush of momentum, doubt gnawed at the corners of his mind. Could he truly create something meaningful? The battle between his ambition and his insecurity felt like standing at the edge of an intense precipice. Evelyn's excitement ignited in him the urge to leap, but what if he fell instead, landing among the remnants of failed aspirations and fractured dreams? "Do you think it's possible?" he asked suddenly, vulnerability breaking through the fortifications he had spent the meeting erecting. "Absolutely," she replied with unwavering conviction. "But you need to trust in your journey, every scar, every story. They are not just burdens, they are powerful tools. You've navigated a unique path, and that gives you a distinct voice." Jake swallowed hard, realizing that the very essence of what had weighed him down, his struggles, could become the bedrock of something powerful. He felt the dichotomy within him reconcile just slightly, the hopelessness ebbing, replaced by a sense of potential. As the conversation transitioned toward logistical planning, a flicker of doubt remained, stubbornly embedded. Jake pondered the complexities ahead, the potential hurdles, the fear of public speaking, and the possibility of rejection. Just remember, Jake, this isn't about perfection, Evelyn said, as if reading his mind. It's about progress, about sharing your truths, even the messy parts. Those are what truly resonate. Nodding slowly, he pondered her words. He imagined standing before an audience, sharing his narrative, feeling both exposed and fierce, connecting with those who still felt hidden. One piece of the puzzle fell into place. But as the conversation wound down, a chilling realization struck him. This was a commitment, a path toward the unknown that required him to confront his deepest fears. That he took a deep breath and then, steeling himself, asked, "What if I fail?" Evelyn smiled, but there was no sugarcoating the truth in her eyes. Failure can be the best teacher. You control your narrative moving forward. But it's up to you to embrace both the triumphs and the setbacks. Jake's heart raced not just from fear, but from emerging determination. He could almost hear Lucy's laughter in the back of his mind, anchoring him. The choice felt monumental, echoing through the very core of who he was. With a nod, he accepted what awaited him, a flicker of resolve sparking within. Yet as they stood to leave, the sensation that he had only unearthed the surface of something much deeper loomed large. What lay ahead both in triumph and in struggle remained shrouded in uncertainty, but it demanded his commitment, and he could no longer shy away from it. His next steps loomed before him, tinged with both promise and peril. As they exited the cafe, a wave of anticipation washed over Jake, and he asked himself, what would he do to ensure he didn't just become another passing shadow? Evelyn glanced back with a little smile, sensing the shift within him. Are you ready to uncover the potential you never knew you had? Jake took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next, but the uncertainty of that question hung in the air. Was he ready to fully confront his past and transform it into a stepping stone for his future? As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the sky, Jake stepped onto the sidewalk, feeling the gravity of his journey settle around him. Each footfall echoed with a resounding realization: he was at a turning point. Evelyn's words lingered in his thoughts like faint echoes of a past he was ready to confront. That he retrieved his phone, scrolling through articles on fatherhood and blogs that resonated with his vision. Yet, the flickering doubt remained, whispering incessantly to him, challenging the sincerity of his aspirations. What made his story any different? What assurance did he have that his venture would ignite a meaningful conversation? He needed clarity, a way to dismantle the nebulous fears that clung to him. A small community center was just down the block. It had served as a backdrop for neighborhood meetings and art classes, where voices shared, clashed, and resonated. Jake hesitated but then felt an impulse pull him forward. Maybe observing would help illuminate the path ahead. Once inside, he scooted into a back corner, his heart pounding as he witnessed a group of fathers discussing upcoming activities for their kids. They shared anecdotes about life, the challenges, uncertainties, and closing moments of joy in mundane routines. Every laugh, sigh, and shared experience felt like a thread weaving a larger narrative of fatherhood that had long gone untold. In that space filled with camaraderie, Jake's previous fears began to peel away. The raw authenticity of these fathers, their willingness to be vulnerable, connected to his own struggles. He listened intently, absorbing stories of sleepless nights and the weight of responsibilities, each resonance igniting a flame in his heart. He left the community center invigorated, wrestling with the realization that those moments mattered. They weren't merely shadows of a life, they were a collective testament to the power of shared experiences. The simple truths of fatherhood he witnessed there demanded a platform, a canvas for countless untold narratives. As he walked home, waves of ideas crashed over him. He could start small, a video series, maybe, capturing snippets of fathers sharing their stories. He imagined the conversations flowing like a current, someone stepping forward to say, "I thought I was the only one." The realization that he wasn't alone fueled his excitement, morphing trepidation into tenacity. Yet, as he sat at his kitchen table that night, practicality seeped into his thoughts. Did he have the skills to produce and edit videos? What if no one wanted to participate? The shadows of self-doubt stirred once more, igniting a familiar battle. In the crucible of his mind, he recalled Evelyn's advice about embracing failures as part of the process. He could strategize, research, and reach out. Just as he needed to trust that his voice could inspire, he needed to trust that he could learn to wield the tools of this new craft. Determined to change the narrative of his life, Jake turned to his laptop, diving into online tutorials on video production. Each click resonated with purpose, transforming his self-doubt into action. The ticking clock seemed to echo a mantra. Every second spent learning was a second richer in potential. Hours slipped away, and as exhaustion washed over him, a profound conviction emerged: this journey would be his own. He would stumble and falter, but every misstep could lead him to a lesson more powerful than the last. Tomorrow would demand courage, action, and a willingness to reach out for stories to tell, but first, he needed to find the right voices. Could he push past the uncertainty and lay the groundwork for his vision? The question weighed heavily on him, compounding into the night. What if confronting those fears didn't just redefine his path but unearthed something he'd never anticipated? He closed his laptop, feeling a flicker of trepidation and excitement. Tomorrow, he would begin to reach out, forging connections that could either elevate his endeavor or bring it to its knees. And within that uncertainty rested a waiting promise. The unknown was teeming with the potential for transformation. As he drifted into restless sleep, the promise of tomorrow loomed like a beacon, challenging him to ask, would he rise to it, or would he retreat once again into the shadow of self-doubt? The stage was set, and the next act awaited him. Jake woke early the next day, his mind racing with a combination of enthusiasm and apprehension. The soft light filtering through his window felt like a fresh start, yet the weight of the previous night's decisions clung to him like a heavy blanket. He had resolved to seek out stories, but the thought of reaching out to strangers made his palms sweat and his stomach churn. Before breakfast, he glanced at his phone, desiring inspiration. Scrolling through social media feeds, he observed snippets of fathers discussing their experiences. They shared candid moments, showcasing joy amidst chaos. A thought struck him: a potential outreach strategy. Rather than just cold calls or generic messages, he could engage through comments, fostering relationships naturally. It felt less daunting, almost like participating in a dialogue rather than initiating it. With intention, he started commenting on posts, acknowledging shared struggles and expressing solidarity. To his surprise, responses began pouring in. Some fathers asked questions, others shared additional anecdotes. Every interaction was a thread expanding his nascent network. He felt a thrill spark with each reply. This back and forth built a foundation for what could evolve into rich stories. Yet, uncertainty nagged at him: would they be willing to go deeper? Would they allow him into the more vulnerable corners of their lives? As he concluded his breakfast, an idea surfaced: why not conduct informal interviews first? Casual conversations over coffee could reduce pressure and allow for organic story growth. This approach shifted the tension. It turned his fear of rejection into a means of invitations, laying the groundwork for authentic connections. In that moment, Jake recognized a hidden talent bubbling to the surface: his ability to engage people, to listen. After jotting down potential questions, he prepared to step out. First impressions would matter, and he wanted to appear confident. He donned a well-worn button-up and jeans, an outfit reflecting both comfort and professionalism. As he walked to a nearby cafe, he began mentally rehearsing how to approach potential interviewees. Each beat of his heart echoed anxiety, but with each step, that anxiety transformed into determination. In his mind, he weighed the significance of those conversations against the slightly disturbing thought of failure, a specter he needed to combat. Arriving at the cafe, he wrestled with self-doubt while scanning the room filled with friendly faces and earnest interactions. What if he was overstepping? What if they turned him down? Each potential conversation resembled a door with unknown consequences behind it, a chance to share, to reveal, or to simply close. That he made himself comfortable at a corner table, ordering coffee while scanning for fathers, soul searchers who might resonate with his quest. An older man caught his eye, a weary but kind face cradled in hands that bore witness to countless lessons. Jake felt a magnetic pull to him, sensing that this man held stories worth capturing. Summoning courage, Jake approached. "Excuse me, sir. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions about fatherhood?" I'm looking to connect with fathers and share stories. Questions hung heavily in the air as he awaited a response. Jake anticipated many outcomes, from refusal to camaraderie. The moment stretched, a painful reminder of vulnerability. Sure, the man said slowly, cracking a smile. I'd be glad to share. Jake's mind raced. This was the opening he needed. The conversation flowed easily as they discussed parenting challenges, triumphs, and fears. Each revelation peeled back layers he didn't realize were there, revealing not just stories but insights into the essence of fatherhood. But just as the dialogue felt secure, the questions shifted his focus inward. Did he truly have the skill to capture these conversations effectively? Each story brought joy and vulnerability, demanding he provide their essence justice through his lens. Capturing these moments would not be just about telling stories, it would involve understanding, interpreting, and framing them. As he left the cafe with notes filled with connections and insights, Jake felt buoyed by the day's revelations. Yet a deeper question lingered: was he truly prepared for the responsibility this platform demanded? And more critically, could he position these authentic stories within the broader narrative he dreamed of shaping? Night fell, and a sense of restlessness settled around him. Those intertwined threads of connection teased at his ambitions, each story echoing the call to delve deeper into the realms of vulnerability. Tomorrow would demand even more courage. The risks loomed larger, yet so did the potential for transformation. Jake lay in bed, equal parts thrill and trepidation propelling him into a restless night. The question crystallized with relentless clarity: would he risk bearing witness to raw truths, or retreat into the familiar comfort of self-doubt? Only time would tell, but one thing was for sure: the next chapter awaited, ripe with stories that might reshape everything. Jake awoke with the dawn that morning, a renewed sense of purpose igniting his spirit. The questions from the previous night, the weighing of potential rewards against the risk of exposure, still lingered, but they now felt more like challenges than barriers. He needed to hold on to that momentum, to ensure he wasn't simply reacting to his fears but acting on his ambitions. After a quick breakfast, he grabbed his notebook and the list of questions he had prepared. He decided that today would not just be about casual conversations, he would turn up his pursuit of deeper stories. This wasn't just a quest for anecdotes, but for real connections and insights that might resonate beyond the moment. His first destination was another cafe a few blocks away, which had a reputation for attracting a diverse crowd of parents during the morning rush. As he walked, Jake rehearsed what he would say. Each member of this new chapter in his life was a chance not only to bear witness to their truths, but also to discover aspects of his own character. He wanted to capture the multifaceted experience of fatherhood, but more than that, he wanted to understand what being a storyteller meant. When he entered the lively cafe, the chaos of chatter and clinking dishes propelled him further into his intentions. The air filled with warmth and the smell of fresh coffee, but his primary focus remained on finding the fathers he hoped to connect with. He settled into a spot at the counter, subtly observing the patrons. A few moments passed as he scribbled additional notes, and then he spotted a young father wrestling with two energetic toddlers. The father's efforts to manage their enthusiasm made Jake smile, and he felt a rush of empathy as he remembered his own chaotic moments as a new dad. This could be a powerful interaction. "Hey there," Jake said, mustering as much nonchalant confidence as he could. "I couldn't help but notice you with your kids. Fatherhood look like a full-time job these days, huh?" The father glanced over, surprised at the friendly interruption but evidently relieved. "You could say that. They keep me on my toes," he replied, chuckling. "I'm actually collecting stories from fathers. Mind if I ask you a few questions about your experiences?" This time, Jake was met with an enthusiastic nod rather than apprehension. As they chatted, the man shared tales filled with candid emotions, his moments of doubt, the joy of small wins, and even some unexpected lessons from his children. Each story unearthed complexities that highlighted the rawness of parenthood. However, as he listened intently, something began to shift within Jake. His ability to observe and connect deepened, revealing that he was not merely a passive recipient of stories but an active contributor. He reflected on how he could shape these narratives, infusing them with the emotions and insights they deserved. Instinctively, he began to ask more probing questions, eager to explore the underlying feelings entwined with experiences. "Is there a moment you felt particularly proud or challenged as a father?" he asked, gauging how far he could go in this dialogue. The father considered this for a moment, uncertainty flashing in his eyes before he began to share a particularly difficult period of his life, losing a job, feeling vulnerable yet determined to support his family. The conversation turned intimate, emotions spilling over as the man's eyes sparkled with unshed tears. Jake found himself deeply moved, questioning how to convey such profound vulnerability with respect. His role was evolving, shifting from a simple interviewer to an emotional confidant. This was more than just a story collection, it was becoming a journey of mutual discovery. As they wrapped up, Jake realized the complexities he had previously underestimated. The layers of vulnerability deserved careful crafting. He needed to honor their stories with authenticity. Walking away from the cafe, exhilaration coursed through him. He had witnessed the human capacity for resilience and connection, but now a new realization dawned: how to balance the truth with the art of storytelling. What if, in his effort to connect, he unintentionally damaged the very essence he sought to capture? With this weight carved into his consciousness, Jake understood he had to confront his emerging role in a far deeper way. As he paced home, the question widened its grasp: how would he navigate the line between stranger and trusted confidant? Tomorrow was looming, and the anticipation of emotionally charged encounters hung thick in the air. It was clear now, the stakes were rising, and Jake wasn't merely gathering stories, he was unwittingly forging bonds that would demand honesty, empathy, and perhaps the greatest challenge of all, his own vulnerability. In the weeks that followed, Jake's quest blossomed into a vibrant tapestry woven from the diverse experiences of fatherhood. His initial anxiety faded as he gained the courage to both share and absorb stories that mirrored his own. Each conversation sharpened his ability to listen deeply and engage authentically, transforming every interaction into an opportunity for profound connection. One evening, while sitting in his small living room, Jake reviewed the notes from his interviews. Amid dappled sunlight filtering through the window, the warmth of Lucy's spirit lingered in his heart. He realized that every voice he had encountered carried a mirror to their soul: the struggles, the joys, and the resilience that defined them. His role had shifted from mere chronicler of experiences to a curator of shared truths. He was crafting a network of stories that would inspire, uplift, and resonate. As the project's momentum built, Jake received an opportunity he'd only dreamed of. Evelyn reached out, suggesting he present his early work at a community gathering focused on family welfare. The event aimed to highlight local advocates and their contributions, an open invitation that brought both excitement and trepidation. Would he be able to articulate the depth of these narratives? Could he bridge the gap between his lived experience and the broader audience? For the first time, Jake could see the potential of transforming his path. Guided by Evelyn's encouragement, Jake spent the days leading up to the event crafting his presentation, focusing on authenticity and connection. He envisioned the numerous fathers he had connected with, reminding himself that their stories deserved to ripple through the lives of others just as profoundly. This moment was not just about sharing his journey but about amplifying their voices, challenging any lingering shadows of self-doubt. When the day of the gathering arrived, Jake took his place before an audience of peers, community advocates, and families, each face reflecting varying degrees of hopeful expectancy. With a deep, grounding breath, he stepped forward, his heart racing. "Today, I want to share a collection of stories that reflect the hidden journeys of fathers just like me," he began, revealing the essence of his project. He spoke not only about the struggles families faced but also about the resilience that arose in moments of crisis, emphasizing the dignity found in vulnerability. Each anecdote resonated deeply, revealing a shared truth that illuminated the emotions tethered to fatherhood. As he shared, Jake could see the audience connect, their expressions shifting, nodding, smiling, and even tearing up. Recognition washed over him. He was not merely making a presentation, he had catalyzed a resonance within that space. Amid the applause, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The weight of expectations faded as the warmth of community enveloped him. It was that evening, marked by the culmination of countless conversations and heartbeats, that Jake understood his transformation was far greater than the stories attached to him. It was the very essence of being a father, a storyteller who could contribute positively to the world around him. Jake walked off the stage, a smile lighting his face, surrounded by engaged conversations about shared experiences and hope. In the weeks that followed, he collaborated with Evelyn to establish a local initiative aimed at uplifting fatherhood narratives. Plans for workshops, storytelling sessions, and a community resource hub materialized. His vision had solidified into tangible goals, steering away from uncertainty into grounded ambition. As Jake took inventory of his journey from the moment in front of the grocery store to standing in front of a community ready to embrace change, he felt a solid confidence radiate from within him. He had conquered his fears, demonstrated remarkable growth, and achieved a position of influence among those he originally aimed to support. And in that moment of self-realization, as he returned home to Lucy's eyes glowing with admiration, he also recognized the priceless nature of shared narrative, the interconnected fabric of humanity that awaited to be woven from countless lives, experiences, and aspirations. Jake would continue to amplify these voices, knowing he not only embraced his own story but also the stories of many and the legacy of empowered fatherhood they'd all impact. Now, it's your turn to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these powerful narratives. We need your thoughts. Comment with your reactions and theories about Jake's incredible transformation. And don't wait even one more second, share this video right now with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting conclusion. Your support is crucial for ongoing personal overcoming stories. Show up for the community that matters.